Her fiancé and her best man ran away together. And her? She was left behind, abandoned in the chaos they left behind. From rock bottom. This is a true story. The names and some events have been changed to protect the identity of those involved. You are listening to From Rock Bottom. Subscribe to the channel and keep respect in the comments. Do you have an inspiring story of overcoming challenges? Send it to us by email.
I was supposed to be getting married in 7 days. 7 days. The dress was ready. White, delicate, timeless. My mother had already cried seeing me in it. The flowers were ordered. Lilies, my favorite. The venue was fully paid. Everything was perfect. And I was excited. Nervous, but excited. I loved him. With all my heart. I really believed I was marrying my best friend. But apparently, I wasn't. Because a week before the wedding, he vanished. No warning. No explanation. Just gone. His phone went straight to voicemail. He wasn't at his apartment. His job said he hadn't shown up. I even thought maybe he'd been kidnapped. Maybe something horrible had happened. I was frantic. Until 7 days later, when I found out the truth. He ran away. With someone. Not just someone. With our best man. The man who stood next to him. Who helped him pick his suit. Who gave a speech at our engagement party. Who toasted to us, looking me straight in the eye. They were gone. Just like that. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the world. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't eat. I didn't want to speak. People tried to comfort me. Said things like, "At least he didn't do it after the wedding." Or, "Now you know who he really is." But you don't get it. I wasn't just mourning the loss of a wedding. I was mourning the loss of 2 people I trusted. 2 people I let into every part of my life. 2 people I defended. 2 people I loved. And they left me like I was nothing. Like I didn't matter. Like I was just a joke they were done playing. But as bad as that sounds, that's not the worst part. No. What happened after I found out where they went. After I thought I could finally start healing. That's the part I still don't talk about. That's the part that still makes my stomach turn. The part that makes me question if any of this was ever real. Because what came next, what I discovered a few weeks later, was even worse. And it still keeps me up at night. Because that betrayal, it had layers. And when I finally peeled them back, I realized I hadn't just lost a wedding. I had lost something much deeper, much darker, and far more twisted than I ever could have imagined. But I'll get to that. Let me take you back to the beginning. I met him at church. Yeah, I know. It sounds like the beginning of a love story, right? But it wasn't. Not really. He wasn't exactly the kind of guy I used to dream about as a kid. He was older, rough around the edges, a bit crude, the kind of man who spent more time with cows and chickens than with people. He had that leathery skin from working out in the sun his whole life, hands full of calluses, and a voice that always sounded like he just woke up from a long nap in the barn. But he was kind and quiet, and he looked at me like I mattered. At least, in the beginning. But I won't lie to you. I wasn't swept off my feet. Not at all. He wasn't funny. He wasn't charming. He didn't have that sparkle in the eye. But in my town, being 29 and single, it was almost like being cursed. You start getting those looks, those whispers behind your back. People start asking your mom if there's something wrong with you. And in a place like mine, where weddings were more important than diplomas, being unmarried after a certain age made you look incomplete, like you missed the last bus, and now you were just standing at the station alone. So when he started showing interest in me, I'll admit it, I didn't exactly push him away. I told myself, maybe this is it. Maybe this is my moment. Maybe I won't have the butterflies and fireworks kind of love, but maybe I'll have stability. And let's be honest, he was also pretty desperate. People talked about him too, about how he'd never had a real girlfriend, about how he talked more to his animals than to other human beings. Some people even said he had something strange about him, that he was hiding something. So, maybe he looked at me and thought the same thing I thought about him, that it would be convenient, that we could both finally check that damn box and be normal in the eyes of the town. You know the phrase, let's just unite the useful with the convenient? That's what we were. He needed a wife. I needed to stop feeling like a leftover. And at the very least, I told myself, he seems safe. He seems stable. That should be enough, right? That should be enough to build a life on. That's what I kept repeating in my head. When he invited me to his farm for the first time, I tried to romanticize it. Tried to imagine a quiet life, waking up to roosters and the smell of coffee, helping him with the hens, making dinner while he cleaned the stables. A simple life. We'd sit on the porch and watch the sunset, maybe raise a couple kids, but deep down, I knew. I knew there was something off, something about the way he looked at people, or didn't. He had a way of avoiding direct eye contact that made me feel like he was always hiding something. Still, I ignored it. I told myself I was just being picky, that I was expecting too much. Love doesn't have to feel like the movies, right? That's what I kept telling myself. We started seeing each other regularly. Church on Sundays. Dinners at his place once a week. Slowly, people stopped talking. They started smiling when they saw us, asking when we'd make it official. Some even joked about finally seeing a white dress before I hit 30. I laughed along with them, but inside, something felt heavy. One night, I asked him why he had never settled down before. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Never found a woman that could stand my way of life." That answer should have sent chills down my spine, but I took it as honesty, as vulnerability, and maybe a weird compliment. I mean, he was choosing me, right? I must be different, special. God, if I only knew. Looking back now, I think he saw me as an opportunity, not as a partner, not as someone to love, but as someone to use, someone desperate enough to ignore all the red flags. And there were plenty, but I'll get to those soon. Because for now, this was just the beginning, the part where everything still looked almost normal, the part where I still believed we had a future that was about to be ripped from under me by someone I never expected. But we'll get there. But here's the twist no one ever sees coming. He changed. Or maybe he didn't change at all. Maybe I just started seeing the real him, not the one people whispered about, not the version I had built in my head, but him, the man behind the awkward silence and calloused hands. And let me tell you something. He was beautiful. Not in the conventional way, not in the way people describe in books or movies, but in the quiet, steady way that matters so much more. He started showing up for me in ways I never even imagined I needed. He'd remember the tiniest details about my day. He'd bring me wildflowers not store-bought, but ones he picked himself during his work. He'd leave little notes around the house. "Put your feet up today. You've done enough." Or, "I made soup. It's on the stove. You're more important than work." And his voice, the same one I once thought was gruff and tired, suddenly felt warm, like the kind of sound that wraps around you when the world gets too loud. He became my safe place. He'd hold me when I cried. He never rushed me, never judged me, just held me. And when he looked at me, I felt seen, really seen. I fell in love with the way he loved routine, the way he'd rise with the sun and feed the animals before even brushing his teeth, the way he'd hum old country songs while fixing a broken fence, the way he'd stop whatever he was doing if I asked him to help me with something, even something silly, like opening a jar or tying my shoes when I hurt my ankle. He had this calmness, like nothing could shake him. I never once heard him raise his voice, never once saw him lose his temper. He didn't talk much, but when he did, he meant every word. He said, "I love you," like it was sacred. He said, "I'm here," like it was a vow, and I believed him every single time. I'd find myself watching him when he didn't know, leaning against the doorway, just staring at how focused he got while sanding down a wooden bench, or how gently he'd scoop up a baby chick that had wandered off. And I'd think to myself, God, how did I get so lucky? For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of the future. I could see it plain as day, a small white house, him coming in with muddy boots, me yelling at him for tracking dirt, him laughing, pulling me in for a kiss anyway. Kids, 2 or 3 maybe, running barefoot through the grass, riding the old tractor with him, chasing the dog, family dinners under the stars. He gave me that dream, and I believed it. I wanted it. I craved it, not because I was scared of being alone anymore, but because I had finally found someone who made me feel whole. He wasn't a placeholder. He wasn't just better than nothing. He was everything. And he became my best friend. We talked about everything. We laughed like kids. We prayed together at night, even when we were tired. We made plans. We chose names for our future babies. He told me once that he never felt peaceful until he met me, that all his life felt like noise, until I came along. And I cried, because I felt the same way. For the first time, I felt safe. Not excited, not thrilled, not head over heels in a chaotic way, but safe, steady, like I'd found my home. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't a poet. He didn't post long love messages or hold hands in public. But he'd heat my car on cold mornings. He'd put toothpaste on my brush before I woke up. He'd bring me water in the middle of the night when I coughed. It was in the little things, the real things. That's where love lived. And I thought, this is it. This is forever. We started planning the wedding. It was small, just close family and friends, a little church ceremony, a barn reception. Simple, perfect. I chose lace and sunflowers. He said I looked like a dream in my dress. He cried when I showed him my vows. We laughed, picking the playlist. We argued about cake flavors. He wanted chocolate. I wanted vanilla. We got both. And he asked his best friend, someone he'd known for years, to be the best man, someone I didn't know well, someone who always made me feel off. But I brushed it off. Because I trusted him. Completely. I had no reason not to. Until I did. But we'll get to that. For now, just remember this part, because when I tell you the rest, you might forget that it was ever this good. But it was. It really was. The proposal. God, I don't even know where to start. It was beautiful. Romantic in the kind of way that felt real, you know? Like something that wasn't copied from a Pinterest board or a Hallmark movie. It felt like him. Simple, warm, thoughtful, completely him. And yeah, his family was involved. My family was involved. Everyone who mattered was there. And I wish I could tell you more. I do, but it's too specific, too personal. Honestly, I don't even like talking about it anymore, because every time I remember it, it just hurts. It's like that moment got stolen from me. I lived it, and somehow I don't get to keep it, because now all people see is the ending, not what came before. The truth is, it went viral. Yeah, the whole thing. Someone filmed it, put it on TikTok, and boom, thousands of likes, comments, goals, emojis, hashtags like #RealLoveProposal of the year. I remember laughing when I saw it trending. Laughing and crying, actually. Because for once, I thought I had something worth showing, something worth celebrating. I felt proud. But now it's just another lie the internet told, another fairy tale turned rotten, another reminder that what people see is rarely what's real. But let me go back. Just a little. I remember waking up that morning not knowing what was coming. It was a regular day. Nothing felt off. He kissed me on the forehead, made coffee like always, fed the chickens, told me he had a surprise for later. Nothing crazy, just a little something. I didn't even think twice. That's the kind of guy he was. Little surprises all the time. Chocolate milk after a rough day. My favorite chips hidden in the truck. So I just smiled and said, "You're sweet." That was it.
Later that afternoon, he asked if I wanted to go to his folks' house. Said they were doing a small dinner. Family stuff. Again, totally normal. When we got there, everyone was already in the backyard. Fairy lights, music, laughter. Still. I didn't suspect a thing. Not even when his mom hugged me a little tighter than usual. Not even when his sister kept smiling at me like she was holding in a secret. It wasn't until his best friend, that one handed him a little black box, and I saw his hands shake. That's when it clicked. And then he got down on one knee. I swear the whole world slowed down.
I couldn't breathe. Not because I was shocked, but because I knew. I just knew that he loved me. And in that moment, it felt like the universe finally gave me something good. He said the most beautiful things. Things I still remember, even though I wish I didn't. He talked about finding peace in me, about how love isn't loud, but it's steady, about how I made him believe in family again. I cried. Of course I cried. Everyone clapped. People hugged us. Someone popped champagne. And yeah, someone posted the video. And just like that, we were that couple. The small-town love story. The unlikely match. The cowboy. And the girl who waited too long. I thought, this is it. I'm finally going to be someone's wife. Not just anyone's his. and for the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. The weeks that followed were a blur of happiness. Venue shopping, dress fittings, cake tastings, all of it. He was so involved. He wanted sunflowers on the tables. He picked the songs for the playlist. He cried during one of our dance rehearsals. He cried, "Tell me how I was supposed to know. Tell me how I could have ever imagined what would come next. How do you look at a man crying over the idea of spinning you around during your first dance and think, this man is going to destroy me? You don't. You just keep planning, keep dreaming, keep sending out invites and measuring centerpieces, because that's what brides do, right?" We had a week left, 1 week, and every box was checked, every last-minute detail confirmed. People would tell me later that he seemed distant, that his eyes looked somewhere else, that he was nervous. But I didn't see it, or maybe I didn't want to. Maybe love really does blind you. Maybe I was just too happy. And why shouldn't I have been? I waited so long. I prayed so hard. I believed in us, with every ounce of my soul. He was my miracle, until he wasn't. And the worst part, the part that really haunts me, that proposal, that perfect, teary-eyed, sunlit moment. I still think about it. I still replay it in my head. Even now, even knowing what I know. Because even if everything else was fake, that moment felt real, and maybe that's the cruelest trick life plays. It gives you something so beautiful, right before it rips it all away. But yeah, that's how he asked me to marry him, with fairy lights and tears and all the right words. And I said yes. Of course I did, because I had no idea what was coming. None of us did. Not yet. You want to hear the part that really messes with my head? It wasn't just my fiancé that betrayed me. It was also my best friend, my maid of honor. Well, best man, technically. Yeah, the best man ran off with the groom. You can laugh. Everyone else did. But here's what people don't get. He wasn't just some guy. He was my person. The one I cried with. The one who held my hand at funerals. The one who made me laugh when I wanted to disappear. And yeah, he was gay. Like, everyone in town knew. Even if they didn't say it, they knew. That small town, surrounded by cows, dust, and judgment, it wasn't kind to people like him. But he survived it with that ridiculous smile and his little side eyes. He always said he was too fabulous to care. But I knew it still hurt. I knew the whispers still landed deep, and I was always on his side. So was my fiancé. Or so I thought. When the three of us were together, it just worked. I remember thinking, God, I'm lucky. Because most men would have felt weird about their future wife being that close to a guy, especially a gay one. But mine, he never flinched, never questioned it, never acted uncomfortable. In fact, he and my best friend even got close. At first, I thought, how amazing is this? My two favorite people in the world, bonding. I used to joke we were a throuple without the sex. They'd laugh, I'd laugh. Turns out, the only one not in on the joke was me. We'd sit on my porch, the three of us, drinking cold beer, swatting flies, making fun of old high school stories. It felt like home. I mean, he was there when I buried my grandma. He held me up when I collapsed at the gravesite. He was there when his mom passed, and I spent the night just sitting on his floor, listening to music, crying, doing nothing at all, and everything that mattered. We grew up side by side. We had that kind of connection, where I'd send one emoji, and he'd reply with the exact thought I hadn't said. We joked that when we were 15, we made a pact. If he couldn't find a boyfriend, and I couldn't find a man, we'd just marry each other, for the tax benefits, and to shut people up. But of course, the town found out about him way before anything like that ever became a real option. And still, he stayed. He wore his eyeliner when he felt like it, painted his nails black during his goth phase, then swapped to pink because Barbiecore, bitch. He never hid, even when it cost him jobs, or respect, or peace. He used to say I was his shield. I'd walk into a room first, break the ice, make space for him, and he did the same for me. So, tell me, how the hell was I supposed to suspect anything? It wasn't like he hid his sexuality. There was never any indication, at least not from him, that he'd ever had interest in my fiancé. Hell, he used to help me plan the honeymoon. We had a shared Pinterest board, for God's sake. He was supposed to stand beside me at the altar, hand me tissues, whisper jokes to make me laugh, so I wouldn't ugly cry when I said I do. Instead, he ran away with the groom. Just like that. No warning, no explanation, no text, no call, no goddamn apology. It wasn't just betrayal. It was erasure. Like everything we ever shared meant nothing. And don't even start with, maybe it was love. Maybe it was. I don't know. I don't care. Because even if it was, you don't do that. Not like this. Not 1 week before the wedding. Not after standing beside me through everything. Not after looking me in the eyes and saying you'd never leave. You don't just vanish into the night with the man I was supposed to marry. You don't steal both of my people in one breath. You don't leave me to face the florist, the caterer, the goddamn DJ alone, to cancel everything, to explain to family why there's no wedding, to pretend I'm okay while someone else gets my happily ever after. And you know what really kills me? Even now, even after all this time, I still miss him. I miss both of them, in messed up, twisted ways. Because when someone is that woven into your life, you don't just cut them out and pretend there's no scar. Sometimes I dream of them. I dream they come back. I dream he knocks on my door, crying, saying it was a mistake. That he didn't know what he was doing. That he wants his best friend back. But I know that's not real. That's just the part of me that still wants to believe in something soft. The truth is, he made a choice. They both did. And I was the collateral damage. So, yeah, that's the twist no one saw coming. The gay best friend. The one I trusted with my soul. The one who knew every secret. He took the man I was supposed to marry. And left me standing in a white dress, with no one to walk me down the aisle. A weeks before the wedding. That was all the time we had left. I had just gotten home from picking up my altered dress. Yes, the dress. When I saw the envelope on the kitchen table. No stamp, no name on the outside. Just my name written with a pen I recognized immediately. His handwriting. My fiancé's. And for a second, I smiled. I thought maybe it was something sweet. A love note. He had done that before, you know. Little notes hidden in my books, taped to the bathroom mirror, slipped inside my purse. Always something silly and romantic. But when I opened the envelope, it wasn't silly. It wasn't romantic. It was a letter, a long one, on 2 pieces of lined paper, written in 2 different handwritings, 2 different inks, 2 different pens, One message. I started reading and I swear my knees gave out. I had to sit down on the floor, right there by the fridge, tile cold under my legs, heart frozen inside my chest. It began with my fiancé's words. He said he didn't know how else to do it, that he didn't have the courage to look me in the eyes and break me. So he wrote. He said I didn't deserve this, but that he also couldn't keep living a lie. He said he loved me. Yes, loved me. But he loved someone else more. He said that love had taken him by surprise, that it wasn't something he looked for, but once it happened he couldn't undo it. Then the handwriting changed. Suddenly, it was his voice. My best friend, the one I shared secrets with, the one who helped me pick out centerpieces and edit vows. His writing was softer, rounder. I recognized the way he curled his Y's and dotted his I's with little slants. He said this wasn't meant to be cruel. He said he knew what it looked like, what it was. But he couldn't keep lying to me, to himself. He said they had fallen in love, deeply, irrevocably, that they had tried to fight it, but it became impossible. They each wrote how much they loved me, how much I meant to them, how this was the hardest thing they'd ever done, that they were sorry. But they were leaving, together, that this town would never let them live honestly, that here, their love would be a joke, an abomination, a scandal. So they were leaving it all behind, the judgment, the small-town whispers, the shame, and me. They said they hoped, one day, I'd understand, that I'd find it in my heart to forgive them, that maybe, somehow, I'd be happy for them. They signed the letter, together, one name after the other, his cursive, then his print, both of them. And I just sat there, staring, reading it over and over, like maybe if I read it enough times it would say something else. But it never did. It always ended the same, with them leaving me, running away to be free. I don't know how long I sat on that floor. It got dark, and I didn't notice. My phone buzzed a dozen times, and I didn't care. It wasn't just betrayal. It was something deeper, something vile, something that unraveled years of trust and love in 4 pages of ink and cowardice. They didn't even say goodbye in person. They left me with a letter, a goddamn letter. Like this was some kind of tragic romance novel, like that made it poetic instead of cruel. I kept thinking about all the moments we shared, the plans, the dreams, the promises. And suddenly, I felt like I was never part of it, like I'd just been a prop in someone else's play. You know what's funny? I actually kept the letter. I don't know why. Maybe I needed proof it was real. Maybe I thought if I ever confronted them, I'd shove it in their faces. Maybe I hoped, someday, it would stop hurting. It hasn't. It's been months now. And people still talk about how the bride got dumped for the best man, how they ran off like a soap opera, how maybe she knew and looked the other way. They always say the worst things when they think you're not listening. But I didn't know. Not even a little. There were no signs, no touches too long, no stolen glances. They kept it locked up tight. While I planned a wedding, they planned their escape. And that's the part I can't shake. The planning. The lying. The coldness it takes to smile at someone while you're breaking them behind their back. That letter was their way of pretending it was honest, that because they confessed, they were somehow less guilty. But the truth, it wasn't brave. It was convenient. because they got to run away and fall in love in some secret stolen fairy tale, and I was left holding the pieces of something I thought was real. And yeah, maybe someday I'll heal. Maybe someday I'll forgive. But not today. Not after everything. Not after that letter. For 1 second, just one, I felt mercy. I read the part of the letter where he, my fiancé, said he couldn't live a lie, where he said he couldn't keep pretending to be someone he wasn't. And for the briefest moment, I understood. A gay man shouldn't marry a woman. A gay man shouldn't live his whole life in hiding, denying who he is. And for that 1 second, I felt love. Not the love of a bride-to-be, not romantic love, but something else, a kind of compassion, a sliver of peace. Like maybe, just maybe, there was some meaning to all of this pain. Maybe I had been part of his story in a way that would help him be free. But that moment passed, fast, because the truth didn't stay quiet for long. The truth is, they betrayed me. They didn't sit me down to talk. They didn't pull me aside months before the wedding to say, "Hey, something's happening between us." They waited. They let me order flowers. They let me book a venue, a DJ, a goddamn photographer. They let me pick out invitations. They watched me cry over seating charts and color palettes and the price of candles. They let me go so far. They let me dream. They let me believe. And then they left me with a letter that pretended to be tender, to be noble. But you don't get to call it love when you're lying. You don't get to call it brave when you're hiding. I was the one who had to call everyone, every guest, every vendor, one by one, explaining, trying to find the words. Something came up. They had to cancel. It's not happening. Each time I said it, it burned my throat. Each time I spoke, I felt like the world was closing in on me. But the worst part, most of them already knew. The letter wasn't the only thing they left behind. Small towns have big mouths. Someone saw them at the airport. Someone heard from someone else. By the time I was picking up the phone, they were already a headline in whispers. The bride got dumped. He ran off with the best man. They were in love the whole time. I became a story, a punchline, a tragedy that wasn't even mine to tell. And the shame I carried, God, the shame of it all. The money wasted, the decorations that would never be used, the dress that would never be worn, the dreams that would never be real. But worse than that, the shame of being fooled, the shame of loving two people so blindly, so completely. How could I not see it? How could I be so stupid? But that's the thing, isn't it? I wasn't stupid. I trusted. I believed in love, in friendship, in loyalty. I believed in them. I believed that he loved me, that he wanted a life with me, that we were building something sacred. And I believed that my best friend, my brother in everything but blood, would never do something like this. He was supposed to protect me. He was supposed to have my back. I cried in his arms when my grandmother died. He held me when my dog was put down. He made me laugh when I couldn't even breathe from heartbreak. We had plans, not romantic ones, but the kind of future best friends talk about. Vacations, kids growing up together, Sunday barbecues, holiday dinners. And all of it meant nothing to him. Because no friend does what he did. No friend betrays you like that. No friend steals your future from you and wraps it in a letter like it's some kind of gift. They said they loved me. both of them. But love doesn't leave scars like this. Love doesn't humiliate you in front of your family. Love doesn't disappear when things get complicated. Love shows up. And they didn't. They disappeared. They chose each other. Fine, let them have each other. But don't pretend I was part of it. Don't lie and say you still care. Don't write, "We hope you'll forgive us," at the end of your little Romeo and Romeo tragedy. You don't get forgiveness for free. You don't get to walk away clean. You left me with a war to fight alone, and I fought it. I'm still fighting it. Every time I go to the grocery store, every time I see someone whisper and look my way, every time I open my phone and see a picture I forgot to delete, every time I see a wedding dress on TV, I'm still bleeding. I know one day the wounds will scar over. I know one day I'll laugh again, I'll dance again, I'll love again. But that day isn't today. Today I'm still angry, still hurt, still crawling out of the ruins they left me in. And maybe that's okay. Maybe I get to be broken for a while. Because this wasn't just a breakup. It was betrayal. It was abandonment. It was a fire set to everything I held sacred. So don't call it brave. Don't call it love. Don't tell me it's better this way. Not yet. Let me grieve. Let me rage. Let me exist in the wreckage without trying to make it pretty. They did this. And now, I have to live with it. Time passed. But it didn't really heal. Not at first. I stayed in that town. I don't know why. Maybe because leaving would have felt like defeat. Maybe because I didn't have the energy to start over somewhere else. Or maybe because a part of me wanted to prove I could survive. That I could stand tall. Even there. But surviving and healing? Not the same thing. Everywhere I went, people looked at me like I was fragile. Like I was a walking reminder of scandal. The girl who got left at the altar by her fiancé and her gay best friend, whispers behind my back, some fake sympathy, some real. Some people just enjoyed the drama. It was the kind of story that stayed alive for months. Every time I thought it was dying down, someone would bring it up again. A stranger at the market, a neighbor on the street. "Oh, honey, you look better now, after everything." Everything, as if I'd forgotten. Healing was impossible in that place. And the worst part? I couldn't even cry properly anymore. I was too tired, too numb, too worn out from pretending I was okay. But then, something strange happened. I got most of the wedding money back. Don't ask me how. A miracle, maybe. A lot of phone calls, begging, paperwork. But little by little, vendors refunded me. The venue gave me a partial credit. The florist hadn't ordered everything yet. Even the caterer felt bad for me and let me cancel. In the end, I had a good chunk of money sitting there. And the house? The house I had bought with dreams of building a life there, I sold it. Not because I had to, but because I needed to. That place held too many memories. Too many ghosts. The room where I read the letter. The kitchen where I broke down. The walls had seen too much. So I sold it, packed everything, and decided, screw this. I needed to do something for myself. Something big. Something just mine. And that's when I booked the exchange program. Work and study abroad. Germany. Why Germany? I honestly don't know. I didn't grow up dreaming of Berlin or Bavarian castles. I didn't speak the language. I wasn't a fan of sausage or cold weather. But something about it just fit. Maybe because my heart was frozen, and I wanted the outside to match. Maybe because I wanted to be so far from everything familiar that I couldn't possibly bump into the past. Maybe because I wanted to feel anonymous. Whatever the reason, Germany it was. And let me tell you, it wasn't magical at first. It was hard. New culture, new language, new everything. I was lost in the grocery store. I cried on the train because I missed my stop and couldn't ask for help. I worked part-time in a bakery where no one smiled at first. I studied at night with people 10 years younger than me. But slowly, tiny pieces of me came back. I'd walk along the river and feel peace. I'd watch snow fall and feel still. I'd drink coffee alone in a cafe and not feel lonely. Just alone. And somehow that was enough. After a year, I was no longer the sad girl from the wedding story. I was just me. And then I met someone. No, not a fairy tale. Not sparks and violins and butterflies. It was slow, clumsy. Two people meeting at the wrong time and trying anyway. He's kind, thoughtful, real. Nothing about him feels like a dream. And maybe that's the best part, because I don't want dreams anymore. I want reality, something I can touch, something that won't disappear in a puff of smoke or a letter left on the table. He knows my story. I told him everything. He didn't flinch, didn't pity me, just listened, and then held my hand. Trusting again. It's been hard. I question things I never used to question. I wait for the moment he'll leave. I wait for the hidden truth. But so far, it hasn't come. So, I try, every day, to love again. Not blindly, but bravely. And in case you're wondering, no, I never heard from them again. Not really. My ex-best friend, the one who used to know all my secrets, he reached out a few months ago. A message. Simple. Hey, can we talk? I didn't respond. There's nothing left to say. The friendship's over. It died the day he handed me that letter. As for my ex-fiancé, silence. And I'm okay with that. Because here's what I've learned. Forgiveness isn't about letting people back in. It's about letting the pain out. I forgive them, not for them, but for me. Because I can't carry this story forever. It's too heavy. I needed to set it down. So I did. And the wild thing is, if all of that hadn't happened, if the betrayal hadn't shattered me, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be waking up in a quiet apartment in Europe. I wouldn't be sipping coffee on cobblestone streets. I wouldn't have seen Paris or Prague or Vienna. I wouldn't be speaking broken German to old ladies who smile at me now. I wouldn't have learned that I could rebuild from nothing. I wouldn't have discovered me. And no, I don't want contact. I don't need it. I don't need to hear their explanations. I don't need to know if they're still together. I don't need closure from the people who slammed the door in my face, because I created my own closure. I built a life without them. And I like who I'm becoming.